Okay. All right. Let's make sure I got audio. Hello, everybody. Chuck Holton here. Looks like I'm a little hot there. Hi. Whew, I made it home. I have not been sitting in this chair for 6 weeks. And let me tell you, it feels very good to be here, without a doubt. I have spent the entire day traveling, as usual. I went to uh, let's see, I started out in Savannah this morning and flew to Houston and then Houston to Panama City and just got home. It is now 7:30 at night in Panama. And man, I'm so glad to be here. So uh, tonight, we're going to do an Ask Me Anything. We probably won't go super long, but I just wanted to, first of all, we need to do the drawing for the Black Rifle Coffee T-shirt that Connie bought yesterday. It was too big for me, but she figured one of you guys might want it. And so what we decided to do was to uh, draw a name out of the hat, so to speak, uh, from our supporters on chuckholton.com. So we have the list of supporters from chuckholton.com. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick it into Chat GPT, and we're going to watch in real time as Chat GPT chooses a name at random from that spreadsheet. And that'll be our winner, I guess. That was the idea I had. So there you go. But this is an Ask Me Anything, so we'll talk about some of the questions you all had. Let's see if I can go back here because I saw people were asking questions at the beginning. Steve S. says I got it backwards on the Israeli Jews. Israeli Jews vote to the right politically. American Jews vote to the left. Is that what he's saying? Maybe. Okay. Yeah, I always get that wrong for some reason. I just think Ben Shapiro is he's not Hasidic, but he is a devout Jew from America, and he's not liberal. So it must be the non-devout Jews who vote liberal. That's how I try to remember that. Maybe that's wrong, though. Greg Mills asks a question here. Does Israel possess, I think you're trying to say ballistic missiles? If so, why don't they use them on Iran? Great question, Greg. As a matter of fact, Israel does have ballistic missiles. They have they name them all after the city of Jericho. The city of Jericho is right, I guess, east of Jerusalem, down by the Dead Sea, and one of the longest inhabited cities on the planet. And of course, it's the one that made the walls. They made the walls fall down by marching around it 7 times. So I guess that's where they get um, that reference. But they have Jericho 1, 2, and 3 missiles. Jericho 1 missiles are kind of obsolete, and they're short range missiles anyway. So they wouldn't be much good against Iran. They wouldn't make it that far. Jericho 2 missiles have a pretty good range. I think it's 1,000 to 1,500 kilometers. It's about 1,200 kilometers to Iran, so they probably would make it. And Jericho 3 missiles are intercontinental ballistic missiles. They can go basically anywhere in the world. Both the Jericho 2 and the Jericho 3 missiles are designed to carry nuclear warheads if necessary, but they don't have to. They can carry conventional warheads but they're large, very big warheads. They're like 2,200 pound. I'm sorry, yeah, 2,200 pound warheads is 1 metric ton for the Jericho 2, and it's bigger than that for the Jericho 3. A metric ton of explosives is gonna do some pretty serious damage. It's a lot more than a artillery shell. It's a lot more than a suicide drone. It's a lot more than even a JDAM or something like that. in many cases. But they aren't really sure how many of them they have. Of course, that's not a number they would be willing to share anyway. And if we did know how many they had, I wouldn't want to tell you that. I'll tell you guys, because that's not the kind of numbers that they want to tell bad people. I mean, you're not bad people, but you know what I mean. So um, they don't know how many, but I can say that they're going to be pretty judicious about using them, because they don't, first of all, want to run out of stock in case they get into an actual all-out war. And number two, it would not bode well with Israel's allies like the United States for them to use one of those missiles. Number three, those things are massive and very expensive. And so they better be shooting at something super important if they're going to use a ballistic missile. And four, if they happen to miss, those things are going to cause a tremendous amount of collateral damage, which is not what they want. So they tend to kind of skew more toward firing missiles off of airplanes. They can carry the missile much closer and then let it loose from an airplane. And the ones that they have that they fire off airplanes are very, very accurate. We're talking about choosing which window to put it through in a building, and not like, Russian missiles, Russian precision missiles are mostly choose which city you want to hit, or at least choose which city block in the city you want to hit. So that's why I don't think they're using them on Iran. And the reason of not making the United States angry at them is probably chief among all those, okay? One Tired Mama is modding from the pantry. So Rob Clinton asks, what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? African or European? I mean, you got to be precise here. I don't know. So let's see. Great value milk chocolate chips taste better. Okay. Thank you very much to Hannah and to Rissa for being here to mod. I definitely appreciate you guys a lot. And let's see here. We have our t-shirt giveaway. I saw there was another question. Where are you? I see you keep your face clean shaven except for the goatee. Try some Israeli-made Defender razors. Okay. Next time I get to Israel, I'll go look them up. I dry shave. I don't use shaving cream or anything, and just kind of never had, just because I'm not a patient person, and I don't want to. If I can cut out a step and save a little time, I'm going to do that. As a matter of fact, that's the reason I keep this. I would kind of rather not have this, but I keep it for two reasons. Number one, it keeps the marriage fresh. Connie likes it. And number two, it's that much less that I have to shave every day. And so it cuts down the time I have to spend in the bathroom in the morning, which I like. How'd it go in Haiti? Wendell Phillips asks. Okay, well, Haiti was pretty lit. It was a last minute thing. I was in Savannah and was spending time with my grandbaby. Victor Marks called and was kind of like, hey, you want to go get some barbecue? And I was like, sure. And he goes, great, meet me in Miami tomorrow. And I was like, okay. And so I went to Miami and he put me on a plane. And next thing you know, we're in Port-au-Prince. Now, Haiti is a failed state. And I haven't been back there in a couple of years just because it's gotten so bad. Kidnapping was the only growth industry in Haiti. And it's just not the kind of place that you'd want to hang out very much. But I've had a lot of other things on my plate. I've spent 6 months in Ukraine, spent 5.5 something months in Israel, been to Armenia a whole lot this year. So I just haven't had time. But Victor had gone down there and was helping out some friends who were in need. I have to be careful about how I talk about that because I don't want to put out information that'll get them in trouble or hurt or anything. But there were some friends in need that Victor Marx was helping. He took some guys down there to assist him with that. And they were being attacked by the 400 Mawozo gang, one of the 200 plus gangs in Haiti now, who basically run the country. Those gangs were causing a lot of trouble and still are to a great extent. So Victor saw it as his mission to go down there and put a stop to that somehow. So he somehow got in touch with Jimmy Cherezier, also known as Barbecue, who is the leader of the most powerful coalition of gangs in the country. They control about 80% of Port-au-Prince, and it's called the G9 Coalition. Actually, that's kind of morphed into something different now called Vivre Ensemble, which means live together. So he has put together this coalition of the gangs to try to actually stand up to the vestiges of the Haitian government. And the reason is because the people that are left in the Haitian government after President Moïse was assassinated 3 years ago were and are tremendously corrupt. Which, I mean, to say that a politician in Haiti is corrupt is just being redundant. I would say to say that any politician is corrupt is to be redundant, although I know a few who I don't believe are corrupt. But I've always said that if you laid all the politicians end to end around the equator, it would be a good idea just to leave them there. So I'm, not a big fan of politicians anyway. And if you think I'm not a fan of politicians, you ought to see Jimmy Cherezier. Because he and his gang are literally fighting against the politicians, and they're not fighting them directly. They're fighting against what's left of the police force. They're fighting against other gangs that are hired by the elites in the country, and they're trying to bring some semblance of unity and order to the chaos. And they're at the beginning stages of that, so they're some ways out. But somehow, well, I know how, but it's a long story. Victor got an invitation from Jimmy Barbecue Cherezier to go down to Haiti and meet with him. Now, some people might say it's not a great idea to go meet with the most notorious gang leader, who many people on Twitter at that moment were saying was the head of a gang of cannibals. But I didn't believe that cannibal stuff for a minute. But I mean, that the whole gang was cannibals. Now, are there cannibals in Haiti? Yes. There are videos out of these gang members stripping the roasted flesh off of a burning corpse and consuming it. That was pretty much just for shock factor, I believe. I don't think those guys make a habit of doing that. But because there is actually food available in Haiti. So I don't think that they're regularly roasting up their brethren and consuming them. But I mean, once a cannibal, always a cannibal, I always say. Ask my friend Michael Yan about cannibals. He'll regale you for hours with amazing stories of his tales of hunting cannibals around the world. And he can tell you all about them. So we went and decided it was going to be a great idea for us to go into one of the worst neighborhoods in Port-au-Prince and meet with the most powerful gang leader in the country. And he was actually quite nice. He's the thing, the media loves to push out this, as usual, very extreme information, all the stuff that's going to make you gasp. They like to push out everything that's sensational, but as it turns out, Jimmy Barbecue Cherezier is a pretty much, fairly normal guy. He has a bunch of kids that he has adopted who were abandoned by their mothers. He gives lots of money to charity or in his neighborhood directly to the people who need it. He is a former police officer. He's intelligent. He understands and speaks some English. He is vehemently opposed to the vestiges of the government and wants to get rid of those guys and institute a more representative government. And I asked him, well, are you just running for office here? Is that why you're doing this? You're trying to, would you want to be president? He said, in the system we've got right now, the first thing we have to worry about is just tearing down what's there. Because we've had 9 successive administrations in Haiti, and all of them have been just terrible. They've just, pillaged the country, and they're just really, really bad. So it's hard to say that whatever we could bring to the table as a coalition of gangs, even though we're not elected, would be much worse than what the government has brought, even though it was elected. So there you go. Now, we met with him. He took us on a walk around his neighborhood. That was enlightening. And then we said, well, the real problem we were having is with this 400 Mawozo gang. They're supposedly the ones who are engaged in black magic. They're the ones who are, raping and pillaging all across the country. There have been some massacres that were attributed to them. And they're the ones that are threatening Victor's friends. And so what do you think we can do about that? And he said, oh, well, I'll just call him and we'll tell him to knock it off. And we're like, what? And he said, yeah, I'll just call him. So he pulled out his phone. He dialed the number and started talking to somebody in Creole. And after about 10 minutes, he got off the phone and then said, okay, you guys are going to see him tomorrow. And we're like, whoa, wait, what? Going to see this guy? This guy is known for his brutality. Jimmy Barbecue Cheresier got the name Barbecue when he was a little boy because there were a lot of Jimmys in his neighborhood. There was Jimmy the football player, Jimmy the plumber, Jimmy the blind kid, and his mom sold barbecue chicken, so he was Jimmy Barbecue. That's how he got his name. So this other gang leader was the kind of gang leader that you really probably wouldn't want to spend a lot of time with. I was frankly pretty impressed with Barbecue Cheresier, but this other guy, not so much. So he said, oh, don't worry, we'll, protect you. I'll send my guys out there with you. Well, he sent his guys, but his guys immediately got drunk. That was not cool. I told this whole story in my other life, so I'm not going to go through the whole thing again, but suffice it to say, I'm back. I have all my parts and pieces. Don't sweat the close ones. Thank you very much. Okay, that's next question. Can you come and have coffee next time you're in Florida with me? That's my question. I'm in Panama City, Florida. Rob, I'd love to come have coffee with you and your mom, but don't get to Panama City very often unless there's a hurricane. So the next time you have a hurricane, I might be there. Other than that, I kind of stay away from the beach. I'm not a beach person. I used to like the beach, but I think what it is that I don't like the beach anymore is it's kind of a post-traumatic stress thing because I've spent so much time in Iraq and Afghanistan and it's so miserable over there. And Afghanistan is like one giant beach. There's just no water. And so I just don't like the combination of sun and sand anymore. And when I go to the beach, it reminds me too much of Afghanistan. Why did that light just come on? That's weird. Let me turn that light off. So, hopefully that answers your question, Rob. I appreciate you asking it. Do you know Yishe Fleischer will you do a stream with him together? No, I don't know him, and I guess I would have to before I could do a stream with him. If you have his phone number, send it to me. Um, how are the UAV drones, Koinonia asks, from Lebanon getting to Israeli airspace undetected? Well, most of them are detected, Koinonia, but it's harder to shoot those things down because they fly very low, like treetop level in many cases. And they, because of the way the Iron Dome works, it's got to have some, they got to be up higher for the Iron Dome to be able to lock onto them and hit them. So most of them are seen. They're not coming in undetected. They are getting launched from the back of a pickup truck or something like that that's hidden in the trees somewhere. And as soon as it launches, the truck takes off. And so it's hard for the IDF to find and finish the launchers of those things. And so hopefully that answers your question. Okay. S. Love Jesus says, can you talk about homeschooling? I am a big proponent of homeschooling. We homeschooled all 5 of our children all the way through from kindergarten to the to senior year. So far, they have all turned out great. My son Mason has been top of his class in his military schools that he went to, and now in college as he's studying to be an airline pilot. My kids are all bilingual, I'm not real big on what I like to call lowest common denominator schooling, because I was that kid in class who was bored all the time because they had to, I had to wait up for all the slower kids, and I wanted to keep rocking, like if there was something like history that I was actually interested in, but then they're trying to teach us history and they're going at about half speed because there's some, kids that are not paying attention or something, then I'm just going to start zoning out and daydreaming, and I'm not going to get much out of it. My 10th grade year, maybe 9th or 10th grade year of high school, I got into a program that was a self-study program for several topics, and one of them was history. And so, it's like, here's what you have to get finished by the end of the school year. And I burned through it in half the time, in half the school year, because I was interested in it. And if you just set me loose, I'll go if it's something I want to do. And I think kids are like that. Our kids were. Our job was to teach them to seek out knowledge, teach them to be curious. And then we could set anything before them and they would consume it. Any knowledge would get consumed and they would be asking for more. So I think that overall, that sort of educational strategy is preferable to the one where you sit down 30 kids in a class and there's one teacher up at the front going at the speed of the slowest kid. And that's to say nothing of the fact that public schools today across America are designed to make good little liberal worker bees out of your children. And if you want your kid to be a purple-haired, bra-burning worker bee, then go right ahead and send them to public school. But if you want them to actually be to use their brain and to be a critical thinker and to seek out knowledge and to be a student all their lives, then homeschooling is a better option. And I'm not even going to qualify that by saying it could be a better option. It is a better option. The average 8th grade homeschooler performs at a 12th grade level. That's the average. There are all kinds of studies out now across the world of how much better it is for a homeschooled kid because he gets to spend more time with the people who love him the most. He is getting inculcated with their value systems and worldviews and not the value systems and worldview of some paid, liberal hack at the school. They are not spending the majority of their time with people their own age and picking up behaviors from those people that you wouldn't want them to have. They get a much more well-rounded social experience because they're socializing not just with people their own age, but they're socializing with elderly people, with younger people, with adults, much, much more than kids who go to public school. They're not getting bullied. They can be the person that they were meant to be, that they were made to be, without getting ridiculed for that. I could go on and on. Suffice it to say that we found homeschooling to be a very, very good option. And I would say that in today's day and age, if you are a Bible-believing Christian, it's basically mandatory. Like I would never begin to abandon my children to a school system that teaches them to be afraid, to a system that teaches them to just be good little worker bees. I want my kids to have a better education than that. And I realize that some people say, well, we just can't swing it financially. But if you really sit down and run the numbers, having your wife go to work, when you factor in gasoline costs and wardrobe costs and everything like that, and then factor in all the health, daycare and things like that for the younger ones, it's probably not, unless your wife makes a heck ton of money, it's probably not as big of a deal as you think it is to homeschool. Okay. Thank you, Old Man Gib, for being here. Appreciate it. Bob says, my son loves interaction with his peers. He will never agree to stay home. Guess what, Bob? You're bigger than he is. You pay the bills. So he will do what you require him to do. And if he won't, then maybe you should work a little harder on being the kind of father that he wants to follow, or at least respects enough to follow. And I'm just saying, I'm not impugning you, Bob. What I'm trying to say is that far too often we are way too concerned about what our children want and far less concerned about what is best for our children. And if you're making your decisions based on what your kid wants, then you're putting the cart before the horse. You're letting the child drive the relationship, and that is absolutely wrong. That's not the way it was meant to be. Your child should understand that you were here first, and you're the one that calls the shots. And are they going to push back from time to time? Yeah, they wouldn't be worth keeping if they didn't. But you've got to be stronger than them in every way. Your will has to be stronger than their will, right? Your emotional state has to be more, have to be stronger than their emotional state. You are the adult, so you drive the relationship. The best definition of good parenting that I could ever come up with is being a good parent is nothing more than the constructive application of misery in your children's lives to produce character in them. Now, think very carefully about what I just said before you set your hair on fire. It is the constructive, not destructive, constructive application of misery in their lives. They will find fun things to do without your help. Your job as the parent is to give your children hard things to do, is to tell them no, is to make them have to control their will by saying, yes, I know you will to do this, but you are not going to do it because I say so. And so you've got to control that will, or there will be consequences. You might wake up and not have a door on your bedroom. You may wake up and not have a bed in your bedroom. I'm not saying, take a baseball bat to your kids, not by any stretch. Loving your children means giving them daily doses of hardship so that they will be people of character, because hardship is what produces character. Somebody asked something about socializing. Are their social skills affected? I personally believe that homeschooled kids are far better socialized than um, kids in regular public school, LCD schooling. Because when they look back in the day, when somebody was mentally deficient in some way, we would put them in an institution. And I used to work in one of those institutions when I was in college. And one of the things that we noticed was that you bring a new person in, a new client, and they're now around a whole bunch of other people that have mental issues, or they're retarded or whatever. And pretty soon, whatever behaviors those other people have, this new person is going to start to pick up those negative behaviors, whether it's pica behavior, eating stuff they shouldn't eat, or what have you. I just dropped my microphone. They're going to start picking them up because they're around people that are like them. It's not actually very healthy and not helpful for those clients in the institution I worked in. It was much better for those people to stay with their families. And I would submit to you that a public school is essentially the same. A public school is an institution where we send children to be around a whole bunch of other children, where they learn to do more children stuff, and they pick up behaviors from other children who are not being raised the way that you are trying to raise your children. And in so doing, they're going to start bringing home behaviors that you're going to have to fight. And it's going to cause less harmony in your home, because your kids are going to come home and, start asking you questions, or start, treating you in certain ways, using words or language that you don't approve of. And so I would venture to say that being around the people who love them the most, who care about them the most, who don't have a political agenda with those children, who are going to get them involved in other activities, church, sports, charitable endeavors, stuff like that. My children all went to work with me. So by the time my kids graduated high school, every one of them had been to war zones. They had been to, disasters, hurricanes, fires, flood, earthquakes, you name it. And they had seen people at their worst with me, and had helped those people, and had learned to have a heart for those people. I'll never forget, I was in Ecuador one time after a earthquake there that terribly damaged the country. And as I was there for about a week. We were sleeping on the sidewalk. It was really bad. And then I had to leave, and the CBN was sending another guy in, so we were swapping at the airport. As we were driving to the airport, there were people standing by the side of the road, and all of them had water buckets and water bottles and stuff, and they were holding them out in the street. And I was like, "What's going on?" And the driver said, "Oh, they don't have any water, and they haven't for days." And I had some water bottles that I had in my bag, so I didn't have much, but I thought, well, I'll give those ones away. So we pulled over and went to hand out these few water bottles that I had, and people started saying, no, don't give them to these kids over here. There's a mother with a 10-day-old baby that is going to die because it doesn't have, the mother doesn't have water, so she can't make milk and can't make formula even. So they said, follow us. And they ran down this the sort of pathway that's got out in the country to this little house up on stilts. And we walked in this house, and sure enough, there's this mother with a 10-day-old baby. And she said, I haven't been able to really feed my baby. I mean, my breast milk is drying up, and I don't have any formula, and I don't have any water to mix formula with. And so I don't know what to do, that my poor baby's going to die. And so we gave the water to them. Well, I went home, and I got home that night, and I was telling that story to my children and my wife over the dinner table. And after dinner, my youngest daughter, Amy, came up to me. At the time, she was about 8 or 9 years old. And she said, Dad, can I give some money to help that little baby? And I said, well, honey, I can maybe PayPal it to the CBN guy that replaced me, and he could get the money to that lady perhaps, because he's still there. And so I said, how much do you want to give? And she went in her room, and she came out, and she handed me $700 that she had been saving since she was a little girl, all her birthday money, all her Christmas money, everything that she had ever earned, her entire nest egg, everything she had saved. She gave it to that little baby to try to save that baby's life. And you better believe I got that money to that mother and let my little girl know that she saved a little baby's life. Those are the kinds of things that homeschoolers get to do. So if you look at the amount of money that they spend, you're probably going to wishing you had never got me on this subject, right? If you look at the amount of money that public schools spend per capita on their kids, it's $10,000, $11,000 in our area, and per year. It's far more cost efficient to homeschool them, because if I spent $11,000 a year per kid, when they were learning about the pyramids, we'd get on a plane and go to Egypt. So there's just a lot of reasons why I am very pro homeschooling, and I could go on and on and on about that. Maybe I'll make a whole podcast about it someday if you want. Have I heard of a so-called journalist called Aaron Mate? No, I haven't. Thank you, Rob. I appreciate that. Question, join late. Have you talked about news today, terrorism in Turkey? I have not talked about it. So in Sri Lanka, Israelis are being hunted, apparently. It's a tourist area, and there are some gangs that are stalking through the tourist areas of Sri Lanka, specifically looking for Israelis. And so they've been told by their government to leave Sri Lanka post haste. And any Americans who are there probably should follow suit, because it's not safe for them there. It sounds a lot like London, actually. Now, there was a bomb that went off in Turkey today. Turkey is blaming the PKK, which is a Kurdish group, a communist Kurdish group. I've actually hung out with those guys a couple times, and they're a little sketchy. The PKK is a designated terror group by the United States and by Turkey because of things like this. Unfortunately for the Kurds, Turkey lumps all the Kurds in and says that all of them are PKK, which they're very much not. There are almost 40 different political factions in Kurdistan among the Kurds. That's one of the reasons why they don't have their own country, probably, because they can't agree on anything. But the PKK is a pretty extreme version of those guys. And during the fight against ISIS, I rolled with them a few times, and they are straight up communists. So I'm not justifying what Turkey is doing now, which is bombing anything Kurdish in Syria or Iraq. But the PKK are pretty extreme. Let's put it that way, okay? So, Lizzie, I hope that helps. Response to yesterday's talk, Israeli Jews, okay, we already talked about that. Biggest request from hard places was physically fit, educated men in construction, not teenagers and reporters. Lisa, I don't see a question in there, so I won't answer it. Rissa asks, how long do you think it will be before riots start after Trump wins? Do you think our adversaries will see a short window closing and take their shot at us? That's two questions, so let me take the first part of that first. I think that the riots, if Trump is declared the winner, the riots will start immediately, and you had better be prepared. And that's a good segue into the book that I just put out. If you don't have a copy of it yet, you can go to chuckholton.com, my locals page, and you just have to be a supporter over there. So you have to sign up on the page, and you can get access to that book. It's called Death of Civility. Death of Civilization. And you can also get access to my book, which is called The Grace Project, about helping your church form a crisis preparedness team. Those two books have been put out in the last month or so. They're the culmination of more than a decade of research, and it just so happened that both of them got done about the same time. And the one is just the Grace Project one is very short. As a matter of fact, I thought about rolling it into Death of Civilization, but I didn't want it to get lost in there. I wanted it to be a standalone one because I think that churches are going to want that Grace Team book. It's about 20,000 words, so it's a booklet. It's small. The other book that I just put out, Death of Civilization, is a little more comprehensive, but it goes along the same lines. So you just have to be a supporter over there at chuckholton.com, and you can get the digital version of that. I've had a few people that have said, here's my address, please mail it to me. No, I'm not mailing out physical copies of the book. That would be very, very expensive. I am making digital copies of the book, and I can send you the PDF if you want to read it. If you read it on Kindle, I can make it into an EPUB and send it to you that way, so you can load it into your Kindle and read it if you want. So go to chuckholton.com and become a supporter, and you can get those books. So how did I get on that subject? Where is she? Okay. So the riots, and the reason I put that book out now and didn't go through the whole process of publishing it on Amazon and everything like that is because it takes too long. And I wanted to get it out before the election because you need to know what's in that book before this election, especially if Trump wins. If Trump wins, all bets are off. There's going to be some pretty serious unrest. If Harris wins, probably not so much, because conservatives typically are not as violent. But if she wins and it's very apparent that there were irregularities, then we could be looking at a catalyst. Suffice it to say, the forest is extremely dry, and all it will take is one little spark to set off a conflagration of epic proportions. And there are 1,000 things out there every minute that could create that spark. And we don't know what will create the spark. All we know is that the conditions are right. And if something does create the spark, you had better be ready with a fire extinguisher. And that's what that book is meant to do. Do you think our adversaries will see a short window closing and take their shot at us? Well, they would have from November to the middle of January or so. And I think it's certainly possible. I have a feeling that if the Biden administration and Kamala Harris lose, they will be basically doing everything they can to hamstring Donald Trump for the time between the election and Inauguration Day. That's what they did last time, and it was largely effective. The deep state they're going to be just cramming it full. So I think that the adversaries we have to be concerned about are already inside the gates. Why, in your opinion, Jerry Fox asks, is Israel waiting so long to respond to Iran? Well, I think it has to do with a lot of pressure from the United States not to respond at all, along with making plans to respond in a way that will not continue the tit for tat, respond in a way that is overwhelming. And there are a lot of logistical issues to be overcome with an attack like that. Obviously, Israel can't put troops on the ground in Iran, nor would they want to. So this is going to have to be done from the air. Israel only has a certain number of airplanes. And more importantly, they only have like 7 refueling tankers. So that, getting that, putting that puzzle together is very, very complex. And they're going to want to get it right. I think they're also trying to coordinate with some more creative responses. And they will go when the time is right. But that's coming. It's coming. Give it a day or two. I keep saying that, but I'm serious. Give it a day or two. Do you know if some of the people you have helped, did they come to Christ? Yes, many of them have, Piper Maid. If you went and watched the video that we put up today, which just has a smattering of people that you all have helped through the hot zone, I just wanted you to see that. I mean, I wanted to put together that video for some time because I think it's easy to forget we have a lot of new people. A lot of people don't realize that the whole point of this podcast is not just to give you commentary on the news, but it's to let you do something about the news to make the news better for people who are being affected by it. And when you send your money off to a large organization, I'm not saying you shouldn't, I'm just saying when you do, you don't really know exactly where it goes or what it's used for. If you're in the case of the hot zone, when we do something, you get to see directly on the channel what is being done with your money. You get to see directly who it's helping and what we're doing with it. So on that video I made, you saw where we paid off people's mortgages, where we helped people get medical care, where we put indoor plumbing in people's houses. We helped a lady rebuild her house. There are all sorts of things. We've given people micro businesses and a whole lot more. And that's just a tiny fraction of the people that we have helped. As a matter of fact, one thing we didn't put in there was from this year where you all built a hospital in Burma. You all donated enough money to build a hospital in the jungle of Burma that is right now saving people's lives. You did that. And we didn't even include that in that video, so we probably should have. But we forget about all the things that we're doing. And many of you, like I say, new to the channel, don't even know that we do it. So I thought it was important that we put that stuff out. Lisa J says, I'm sorry, but where do I go for your book? Lisa J, go to chuckholton.com. Maybe Rissa can put the link in the chat box there. Go to chuckholton.com. Sign up to be a supporter. That's $7 a month, and you can get access to the books. Not just one, multiple books. And the t-shirts and everything else. We're going to be doing a lot of different things. I actually hired a business manager to help me with all of my different businesses. And she was asking me about the YouTube channel. And she's like, so are you doing this? And I'm like, no. And she's like, oh. And she goes, well, are you doing that? No. She's like, oh my goodness. What, how much of this are you doing? And I'm like, none. And she's like, oh. And so apparently I'm doing everything wrong on the YouTube channel, and she's going to help me do it right. And one of those things is to try to engage more with you guys. So we're just bumbling around here. We have no idea what we're doing. We are so undercover, even we don't know what we're doing. Okay. So you can get the book at chuckholton.com. Lori W. says, what do you think is happening with Russia and North Korea right now? Thank you, sir. North Korea is trading men for money. Russia is hiring, for lack of a better term, DPRK soldiers from North Korea to come and fight in Ukraine. That is not good for anybody. I think what Ukraine ought to try to do is set up traps and don't kill, just capture as many soldiers as they possibly can. Capture them and then treat them like kings. Take them on tours of Ukraine. Take them on tours of Europe. Send them to the United States for a tour and then send them right back to North Korea. If we can get maybe 10,000 Korean troops who have never been out of North Korea and have no idea what the rest of the world looks like, they're lied to by their government. They think they're told ever since they're born in North Korea that the rest of the world wants to take over North Korea because North Korea is the best place on earth. So they have no idea about things like indoor plumbing and stuff. And so send them to Ukraine to fight. Ukrainians set up these traps and operations to capture these soldiers alive and then take them and show them the rest of the world, what the rest of the world looks like, send them back to North Korea and watch the dictatorship fall over there because they don't, for lack of support. That'd be awesome. That'd be what Chuck Holton would do. Okay. Let's see here. If Israel tries a surprise attack, is it possible with us watching via satellite? I'm not sure what you're asking. Badger Girl forgot. I'm sorry. Is it possible? Is it possible for them to do a surprise attack? I don't think anybody's going to be surprised once they attack because they've been saying they're going to do it. So I think that sort of obviates the whole surprise part. May seem trivial, but we get a lot of questions about your watch. It's a Apple Watch. It's just a Apple Watch Ultra. And I like it because it tracks my fitness stuff. So yeah, I do get a lot of questions about my watch. That's weird. Thank you, Hannah, for bringing that up. Let's see. Should Israelis claim all the land south of the Litani River? They kind of are. I think that ultimately what they're going to do is have a peacekeeping force of Israelis in that zone of southern Lebanon, and they're going to keep them there for the foreseeable future until the diplomatic pressure gets so great that they decide to move them, and there you go. The last time they did that, by the way, it didn't go well for them. They lost a lot of Israeli troops because you're putting a bunch of targets out there for the insurgency to shoot at, right? So I don't think that's great. But what's their option? You know, they have to do something. Okay, so I just saw, thank you for the $20, whoever did that. I got to go all the way down to the bottom. How can me and my church help in Burma, evangelical and financial? Well, you can go to Free Burma Rangers and you can support through them. The Free Burma Rangers are the place to go if you want to help the people in Burma. And I've been a ranger with FBR for 14 years now. And they are as solid as any organization could be. It's a very, very, very good organization. So it's the Free Burma Rangers. Maybe one of the mods can put a link to the Free Burma Rangers website in the chat for me. That'd be helpful. Thank you, Quick Scott. A news source called the North Korean soldiers slave soldiers. I'm familiar with this moniker. Are you familiar with this? I mean, I'm not familiar with that in terms of, I haven't heard it in terms of that, but it makes sense because the soldiers themselves are not getting paid. North Korea is getting paid by Russia, and the soldiers are just getting sent by North Korea. So, in a sense, they are slaves. Question about your Starlink. Do you pay a monthly subscription for coverage, or is it free once you buy the product? No, you do pay a monthly subscription. A normal monthly subscription for Starlink depends on where you buy it from. So if I buy it here in Panama, it's actually cheaper than if I buy it in the United States. But I did buy it in the United States because that would allow me to get it faster. But it's like $55 to $85 a month based on where you live. And I got the roaming package and the miniature dish, so it was more expensive. But that's like $165 a month, I think. But it's pretty cool. I've done several lives with it now, and it's solid. It gets like 30 meg upload bandwidth, which is plenty for what I do on these lives. And I'm pretty happy with it. It fits. It's about the size of my laptop, so I can fit it in the laptop pocket of my backpack with my laptop. And it's super light, so it hardly adds. I bet the whole thing is probably 1 pound. Most of that is in the cable, so not heavy at all. And I'm just really impressed with it. So if you're writing a question, it helps if you put the question in all caps and the word question at the beginning. So if I'm scanning these many comments, looking for stuff in all caps. So Stephen Matthews wrote question in all caps, but then wrote the rest of the question in small caps, and it was harder to see. I just happened to catch it, but I might not have. So try to put them in all caps. Do you think Israel will turn control over in Gaza to a Palestinian-like ruling authority or keep a permanent presence there? Right now, they're saying they are going to stay there for the duration. The rest of the world is saying, no, you're not. So we'll see who wins out on that. Why don't people understand that Gaza is Israel land? And Gerald, I don't ever know how to answer questions about why other people don't understand something because I'm not them. And I mean, maybe that's a rhetorical question. It sounds like a rhetorical question to me. Like, why don't people understand this? I don't know. There is plenty of history out there to prove it. I mean, Judea, where the Jews live. Like, there you go. Question from Mike Klein. Are there Russian warships in the Middle East? Not that I know of. There might be one off the coast of Syria, but I'm not sure about that. Good evening, Chuck and family. Question, do you know who attacked Turkey? Well, Danny, they're saying it was the PKK, which is a Kurdish organization. I actually got detained by, I won't say arrested, but I was detained by the PKK one time for taking photographs of an ancient fortress on top of Mount Sinjar. I was there with the Free Burma Rangers, and we were playing flag football, and it was sunset, and it looked really nice, and there was this old fortress off, kind of in the distance a little bit. So I walked over there and snapped a photo of the outside of the fortress, not knowing that the PKK was using that fortress as their base. And I was very quickly surrounded by soldiers with weapons, and they escorted me into the base. And I was stuck in there for half an hour or so until they found a couple of girls who could speak one word of English between them, and that was the word friend. And we had an entire conversation with just the word friend. They were like, friend? And I was like, friend. And they're like, friend? And I was like, friend. And I was like, friend, pointing, like to my friends. And they're like, friend? And I was like, friend. And it was crazy. But eventually I got them to follow me outside down to where the rest of the Rangers were. And Dave Eubank pulled out a bunch of T-shirts, gave all the PKK guys T-shirts, and that made them happy. And then we went back to our football game. Just exciting. Do you consider North Korean troops moving into Ukraine a major escalation? Yes, as I've been saying, we are already in World War III, and I think we're seeing proof of that here as another country gets its troops involved, and that opens the door for Poland to get involved or Lithuania to get involved and then Belarus to get involved. And you see how this goes. What will Russia do when Israel strikes Iran? I don't think Russia will do anything directly against Israel other than condemn it. If even if Russian soldiers in Iran get killed, they don't usually care much about their own soldiers. So I don't think that they're going to fire missiles at Israel or anything like that. Thank you for the effort you put out in these videos, watching from Southern California. Can you do more videos on preparedness? Yes, I can, and I will. I think what I'm going to do is do videos on preparedness over at chuckholton.com. So if you want to see them, I'm going to put them just over there for supporters, and maybe even do a live where we can do a Q&A on prepping for this. Maybe we'll do it just a week or so before Election Day, and we'll talk about that. So I thought Russia had some kind of military control of Syria. Well, they're assisting, Badger Girl for God, Russia is assisting the Syrian military in maintaining control over the parts of Syria that the Syrian military controls, which is not much. Russia does not have a lot of control over anything inside Rojava, which is the eastern third of Syria, controlled by the Kurds. And that's the reason why the Turks are now bombing northeastern Syria, because that's where the Kurds are. Okay. Question, do you know how many task forces in the U.S. Navy has in the Med and the Gulf? Task forces, I don't know. There are a couple of carrier strike groups there. And I think there's one in the Med and one in the Gulf. But I could be wrong about that. Okay, let's see. Question, will Russia help Iran defend itself? No, I don't think they will. Other than giving them stuff with which to defend themselves and sending some advisors to help them run that stuff, I don't think Russia is going to take an active part in fighting against Israel. What do you think about the 200 missiles from Iran? Well, I was there. I watched it happen. I missed the last part of that question. Shoot. I hate the way this thing snaps to the bottom every time I try to scroll. Well, I'm sorry. Oh. What do I think about the 200 missiles from Iran just now? I didn't see that. I didn't see any missiles from Iran just now. Are you trying to tell me that that Israel is under attack again? Because I'm not seeing that anywhere. Maybe you're just trolling me. Let's see here. Is there hope for our next generation? Yes, there is, and it's at the Alert Academy, the International Alert Academy. I highly recommend it. I wrote about it in the book, and I recommend you look into it if you have any young people in your life. What is your favorite country you've ever visited for beauty or enjoyment? I would say Armenia right now is my favorite country to visit for beauty and enjoyment. I just feel good when I'm in Armenia. I feel safe. People are friendly. It's beautiful, beautiful country. And I just feel good being in Armenia. And if you haven't been to Armenia, I would highly recommend you go. We are taking a team of people to Armenia in June of next year, and you're welcome to join us. If you're interested, send me an email at hotzoneholton@gmail.com, and I'll get you the information about the trip. It's a 11-day trip. We made it longer because we just couldn't cram all the fun into 10 days for this year. And it's, I think, going to be full right away because we have so many people who have been before who want to come back, and people who were on our recent trip to Israel and Jordan who want to now go to Armenia with us because they had such a good time with us going there. So if you have an inkling to go with us to Armenia, I would highly recommend you send me an email quickly and get your spot reserved. Now, one other thing that we've been talking about, I just want to throw out there and get your thoughts on this. I've had a lot of people ask about me doing a tour to Panama, where I live. I'm in Panama now, and we've lived here for 13 years. And there are a lot of people very concerned about what's going on in America, or maybe looking for an out or looking for a cheaper place to retire. And so kind of interested in looking at Panama as a retirement destination. The problem is I am not interested in running tours in Panama that would take you around to all the touristy sites and that sort of thing. But what I am considering doing is we've been talking about different things that we might do to add value to our supporters. And so we're thinking about putting together like a 5-day long weekend kind of thing here in Panama, up in the mountains at a retreat center, a very nice, very, very nice hotel in our little community here where we live, where we can bring you and hang out and relax, go hiking, and do some talks about geopolitical issues and talk about preparedness, talk about relocation if you're into that sort of thing, and not run ourselves ragged, but just have a good long weekend up in the mountains of Panama in the cloud forest at a beautiful retreat center and hang out with me. And so if you're interested in something like that, send me an email, hotzoneholton@gmail.com. And we're thinking about maybe next spring doing something like that. So just a thought. Okay. Question, are you planning to work with Oscar sometime soon? I follow him and sometimes watch his channel. I love Oscar. Oscar is going to be back here in Panama before too long because he has asked me, I think he wouldn't mind me sharing this. He has asked me to baptize him and his family. He was raised Catholic, and so he's always been a Christian and believed in God. But he has recently embraced a more evangelical theology and wants to be baptized as an adult, as a show of his faith, as a symbolic gesture that shows that he died to himself, was buried with Christ, and raised again a new creature. And so he wants to come to Panama and wants me to baptize him and his family. And so at some point soon, we're going to do that. That would be really cool, wouldn't it? So if you promise not to shoot my fish, I don't have any fish here in Panama. That's in West Virginia. What was the unrest in Panama the last year or two? It was the stupidest thing ever. The unrest that happened here in Panama was over a copper mine that had been mining Panama for more than a decade, that was fully developed. It was out in the middle of flipping nowhere on the uninhabited side of Panama. And it was providing about 40,000 jobs for Panamanians, and a bunch of eco-whack jobs got together and started protesting and whipping up the fervor of the Panamanian people, saying these people are raping our land and taking our resources. No, they're buying your resources and hiring you to do it. And oh, by the way, paying the government of Panama about $700 million a year in taxes. But none of that mattered, and these people got all whipped into a frenzy and went and stood in the middle of the street for a couple of weeks and blocked all the roads. The problem with that is Panama is basically a country that only has one freeway and that traverses the country. And so nobody could get anywhere. There were women having their babies on the side of the street and people, getting in fistfights and all sorts of stuff. And it was an absolute clown show of epic proportions. And it's one of the reasons why I closed my tour company here in Panama and do not want to contribute to the Panamanian economy in that way anymore, because I would be afraid to be bringing people down here on a tour where we have to move around the country and have to worry about some jackwagon standing in the middle of the road and not letting me pass, because I might just go and throat punch him, and then I'd be the one getting put in jail. So that's what that was all about. You can go follow Oscar on his YouTube channel if you like. Oscar Blue Ramirez is his YouTube channel. He's down in Tapachula, Mexico, I believe, reporting on the caravans. There's massive tsunami of migrants who are hurriedly making their way north, trying to get into the United States before the election. And so he's down there covering that. I should have a retreat at my ranch in the States. We could do that too. It would be closer, but not near as exotic, although it is a very nice place. So yeah, we could, if you're interested in doing a retreat, maybe we could do some training with tools because we have a range on the farm there in West Virginia. So something like that. Yeah, we could think about that. We'd have to limit the number of people pretty severely, so it wouldn't be super cheap. But yeah, I mean, we could do that. Your opinion, people trying to get a canal in Mexico? Yeah, good luck. They've talked about a canal in Nicaragua. I went and reported on that, and that hasn't happened. It'd be even harder for them to do it in Mexico. I doubt it would happen. Giveaway. Oh yeah, giveaway. Right. Okay. Yeah, we got to do the giveaway. What is the story about the leak from Biden administration regarding Israel and Iran? I did a whole podcast on that, so you can go watch that, Lynn. Just go back a couple of days, and I talked about it a lot. Would you lead another backpacking trip through Armenia? Yes, I would. I would love to do that. As a matter of fact, we're trying to put one together now in late May. So, Jeremy, if you're interested in backpacking across Armenia, send me an email, hotzoneholton@gmail.com, and we'll do that. Okay, so let's do this giveaway. I didn't bring the t-shirt with me. I can't show it to you on camera because we had to leave it in the States. I can't mail it from Panama. Panama actually does not have a mail service to speak of. And so it'd be impossible or very difficult for me to send it from Panama. So I left it with my son and his wife, and they will send out the t-shirt when we give it away. If you want to look at it and see what it looks like, actually, I do have one of them here, but it's somewhere. I'd have to go find it. It's from Black Rifle Coffee. I think my wife put up a link to the shirt on Black Rifle Coffee so you can see what it looks like. It's got a rooster on the front wearing night vision goggles, holding a silenced M4, a suppressed M4, and it's a large. It's a size large. We can't do other sizes. We're giving away the large. Okay? And we're going to give it to somebody who is a supporter over on chuckholton.com. So here's what I did. Okay, I'm going to go over here to, I think it's this one. There it is. I've already got it loaded in there, ChatGPT. I printed off a spreadsheet with the names and email addresses of all of our supporters from chuckholton.com. And I'm going to tell ChatGPT to select a winner at random from the following list. And so here we go. Drum roll, please. And let's see. It's thinking. And the randomly selected winner is Drake 4 Dragon. Drake 4 Dragon. If that's you, send me an email with your mailing list, and I will get it out to you. Drake 4 Dragon, congratulations. You just won yourself a t-shirt, and we appreciate you very much. Thank you. There you go. I love ChatGPT. I ask it questions and have long conversations with it all the time. My wife loves it too, because then she doesn't have to have long conversations with me anymore. She just points me to Chat GPT and I go talk to it when I'm lonely. So I'm just kidding. My wife loves having conversations with me, loves it. Absolutely can't wait to have more conversations with me. Um, do you know about the Young Turks? He's so wrong about Israel. Yes. That guy actually made an entire, it's probably not out there anymore, Gerald, but they made an entire episode of their Young Turks show one time back when I was working for the National Rifle Association, because I did a video like this and I was talking about um, active violence events. I think it was after one of the active violence events like Sandy Hook or something like that. And I said, we need to train our boys not to run and hide, but to fight. We need to train them that if somebody comes in and starts, committing active violence, everybody needs to attack that guy and stop him. Now, some people will get hurt for sure, but they're not. If everybody goes and hides under a desk, then the guy just walks from person to person and just bang, bang, bang. We've seen it how many times? It's terrible, but that's what we've seen. So I said we need to start training boys, our young men especially, to attack an assailant and not run away, unless there's you can just get away as if it's just you or something, right? But so the Young Turks made a show about that, saying, can you believe this idiot from the NRA is telling people to attack the shooters? And well, apparently we have a difference of opinion on that topic. But anyway, so I would crush that guy in a debate, but I guarantee you he would never debate me. If you have his phone number, send it to me and I'll give him a call. But all right. Rissa's husband talks with GPT, yeah, when he's lonely too. I think I'd get along really well with him. If we do this thing in Panama, you and Hannah have got to come. We're just going to have to, whip out some frequent flyer miles or something and bring you guys down here for that. So obviously, make sure you got your passport up to date if we're going to do something like that. Okay. So, Sank yelling, of course. All right. Well, that's all I've got for today. We're over an hour, so thank you very much for watching the show. And we'll have more where that came from before too long. So stay tuned, and God bless you. We'll see you later.